wrapped up on last week with imperialism. So here's your bell ringer. So tell me, what was the open door policy and why was it so important? So the biggest thing, and again, this is a question on your quiz today, is that it is to open up the doors to trade with China, which is huge because we are trying to work on becoming a world power during this point in time. And we want to open up the doors for trade, for business, for money, for power, for all the above, and opening up trading with China, Japan, a lot of those Asian countries is going to open up new doors for us as well as them. So that's the biggest thing. What was it? Trading with China, and why was it so important? Again, this is part of our plan of becoming a world power and opening up options for business, trade, money, power, all the above. So again, we'll review that right before we go over your quiz, but that is your bell ringer question for today. Okay, so I told you I am going to mix it up. I apologize. I know this is spur of the moment, but it's going to be good. It's for a good reason, because progressives actually have a lot of info. If you've already looked through your packet of notes, if you have a packet of notes, or if you've looked at the Google Classroom slides, there actually is a lot of info that goes with progressives. And there's good and bad news to that. The good news is that I am not going to be quizzing and testing you on all that info, but I do want us to run through it so that you get an idea of what it's talking about, because progressives are working on positive change. And you actually, whether you realize it or not, do appreciate a lot of the positive change that they push for. And we're going to talk about just a few of them today. Okay, so here's what I want to do. Okay. We are going to go, and if you have the packet of notes, grab it. If not, you could just follow along on the Google slides. But I am going to go ahead today and intro into progressives, and then we'll stop, review, let you knock out your quiz, which will only take a few minutes, and then I'll let you get into working on defining your IDs, which is just IDs, no section questions this week. Oh, come on. There we go. All right, I thought I was going to lose my internet connection there for a minute. Okay. All right, so again, I just want to quickly intro to it, and if you have the packet of notes or if you're pulling it up through the Google slides, it should say progressives. Aiden, what numbers does it say at the bottom? Page 55. Page numbers are a little bit off from what I have. I have like the old version, and you guys have the new version. Okay, so again, we're just going to intro into it, then we'll review, and then you can knock out your quiz and all the things on this happy Monday. So again, the biggest reason why I want to go ahead and push is because I would like to finish imperialism and progressives this week so that next week we can get into World War I. Lots of good stuff with World War I, and there's a lot of stuff I want to do with it. So I want to make sure I leave plenty of time for that. Okay, so let's just intro it for today. And we've got some really big groups that we have to talk about. Some of these we've already discussed. We've already talked about the Grange. The Grange is that third party that farmers created because they're frustrated with railroad owners charging those really high prices. We've talked about the Populist Party. The Grange joins workers and morphs into the Populist Party, and we talked about what they want. So both of these should be review, and if it's not review, then obviously that's what we need to go back on before we get ready for midterm. But Populist Party is this third party that stops because, again, it's farmers plus workers. So they want 8-hour work days. They want to change what our money is backed by to silver. They want government protection for workers and farmers. That's old stuff. But what about new? We've got a couple of new groups, and we've got some new amendments that are about to be put up. One has to do with suffragists. So suffrage means to vote. And who is the only group left at the turn of the century that does not have the right to vote yet? Women, yeah. So women are the last and final group to get the right to vote. And I've kind of talked a little bit as to why that a lot of people believed that it was a waste of money, time to educate a woman. She is to be seen and not heard. And she definitely should not have a voice when it comes to politics. So pushing for the right to vote. Fun fact, did you know that it was actually women's participation during World War I that gave them that extra edge? Because, well, who else is going to be left to run the country when you have millions of men that are either drafted or volunteer to go fight in this war, but it's women that are left behind on the home front to run the factories, to run the farms, the stores, the restaurants, etc. So anyway, keep that in mind for what's coming. And then temperance. For a very brief period of time in American history, we were a totally dry nation, which means we got rid of alcohol. And again, for a short period of time, all right, only for a decade. And then we're like, no, we're going to bring it back. It's kind of like the whole idea was about morality. And is it fair? Can you dictate what somebody can and can't do, especially if it's something that you've been used to? It's kind of like you guys with cell phones. Like if you've been used to having your cell phone and then all of a sudden we said, nope, we're taking away cell phones. We think they're bad. They're ruining everybody morally, socially, politically. We're taking up all cell phones and getting rid of them. You know, I'm almost positive that you guys would rebel and in some way, shape, or form try and get those phones back. All right. Well, that's exactly what happens with alcohol when we say, you know what? We think alcohol is bad. It's causing poverty. It's causing abuse. You know, husbands are going to bars after work and then they're going home and they're beating their kids and wives and they're spending all their paycheck on alcohol. If we got rid of alcohol, that would make life so much better. But again, if you're used to having something, you're going to find a way around it. That's exactly what happens. And that's why we have all these underground speakeasies and these bootleggers. And then, of course, that's why NASCAR comes around, because people were what we call rum runners. They were souping up the engines to cars, which I know we're not quite there yet, but they were souping up the engines to cars so they could outrun the police. As long as you could outrun the police, that's all that you needed to be able to do to be able to transport your alcohol to whoever you were selling it to. And we got people at home making a bathtub gin and selling it out of their houses, which I don't know about you, but I don't know that I'm bad that I'm going to drink it out of somebody's bathtub they're making it out of at their house. But anyway, it is what it is. But all of this is moving towards change. Suffrage will lead to the 19th Amendment. And here's how I remember what has to do with alcohol. So there's two amendments. One amendment takes it away and makes it illegal, and then one is going to bring it back. So the 18th Amendment takes it away. You can't drink at 18, but what age can you drink? 21. At 21. So guess what amendment brings it back? The 21st Amendment brings it back, and that's how I keep up with it. So 18th Amendment will get rid of alcohol for a very short period of time before we decide to bring it back. Fun fact, did you know the number one reason why we decided to bring alcohol back is actually because of tax money? The federal government realized how much money it was losing on all that alcohol people were buying anyway, illegally, and they were missing out on all that tax money. Okay, we're only going to look at a few more things, then we're going to stop, okay? All right, so what are all these issues that we're having with inequality? Yeah, we already know that there is a huge gap in wealth. We know that there are those haves and have-nots, right? We know that there are those millionaires and billionaires in the penthouse apartments, and then we also know that those other individuals that are living in one-room little tenement apartments with 12 people. So we got to figure out how to fix that. We got to figure out how to help those and give social services to those that need it. So here's the biggest thing that our progressives are working on. Our progressives are working on all these issues. Social issues, how can we help the poor? Moral issues, changing behavior, and that kind of has to do with alcohol. Again, how can we fix that? Economic issues, we got to go after big business. We can't let big business keep going after and controlling the shots. We've got to do something to figure out how to regulate big business, cut down on monopolies, make sure that there is fair pay, make sure that there are benefits, And then another one has to do with the government. How can we fix efficiency at the government, both federal, state, well, and local levels as well? So we're getting ready to have actually several amendments. Progressives, we will talk about the 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th amendments that are getting ready to be put in place to make change, positive change, especially at the government level. So yeah, we got all these areas that we're going to start making big time improvements in. And a lot of it is definitely for the better. We're getting ready to talk about a government agency that I'm very thankful for, especially as much as we like to go out to eat, go to the grocery store, buy your food. Anybody in here work at a fast food restaurant? We got, yeah, a couple. Okay, all right. So anyway, when you go to a restaurant, do any of you ever actually pay attention to those grades that restaurants have?
I do.
Yeah?
Into the sanitation.
Right. Yeah. So we're getting ready to talk about how that came to be and why it's very important that we have those today, because at the turn of the century, they didn't have to have any of those things, all right? That there's going to be an undercover journalist that goes and tours a meat packing plants, and he witnesses all the things happening that today would be illegal on so many levels, right? Like, you know, there isn't a such thing as having to wear hair aprons and washing your hands and stuff like that. So, if we have incidences to where we find stuff in our food today with all these safety precautions that are put in place, think about how your food was before all that was put in there. Okay, I'll give you a good example. My husband went out to eat one time. I forget what the fast food restaurant was, but he had a bolt. He crunched down on a hot dog that had a bolt in it, you know, and he like busted out part of his molar, but anyway. And so accidents happen even with all these safety precautions put in place, not to mention what it was like before all that and before we had the FDA. All right, so this guy I actually talked about a couple of weeks ago, Edward Bellamy, and he's the guy that predicted that we would become a socialist society by the year 2000, which we haven't, but they really thought that eventually we would have government and business working together as kind of a duo. And he predicted that we still might see a change in corporations as far as that goes. But in every society, there is the fear of the unknown. We've always been a capitalist society. We've always been a free enterprise society to where we push to let our businesses have a lot of freedom and operate by supply and demand and consumerism. But the idea that there might be change like socialism, that we might again have business and government teaming up and working together to organize how things run, especially helping workers. We've got Henry George, who's going to push and blame poverty again on the wealthy. We've got Edward Bellamy again, who predicts that eventually we will become a socialist society. But it all stems from the idea that workers need help, but we're going to start making change, right? And we're about to talk about the introduction of things that we have today: a set minimum wage, benefits, safety precautions, child labor laws. All those things are about to make some big change. So we do have a fear of a revolution and socialism, but that'll also change until later on. We'll also have a fear of communism eventually. And that fear is still very much an issue today. I don't really necessarily see that we would ever become a communist society, but anyway, those irrational fears never really fade away. Let's see, I think we'll talk about one last thing before we move on, but we're getting ready to talk about 3 progressive presidents to round us out for this unit. We're going to talk about TR, Theodore Roosevelt. We're going to talk about Taft, and then Wilson, and Wilson's also the guy that's going to roll us into World War I as well. All right, we got to talk about this guy really quick. This is an interesting guy, Eugene V. Debs. And you may or may not remember him from way back in chapter 12, because he is over the United Railroad Workers movement. He's going to help push for the American Socialist Party in 1900, and he will run as a presidential candidate. He actually gets 1 million votes, which is really impressive for a third party candidate. We've never had a third party president. And if anybody could have won as a third party president, it would be Roosevelt. And we'll talk about probably tomorrow how that even is a possibility. But anyway, we've got, what was I going to say? Workers' unions that are still pushing for positive change. But thank goodness for these progressives. They are going to finally start crunching down on these big business owners and start getting rid of these monopolies. It's hot in here. All right, so I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story. So Roosevelt, when he does come into office, he is going to send a guy undercover, and it's up in Sinclair. And he goes into this meat packing plant, and he gets to sit there and witness all the things, and how he's not just like puking every 5 seconds. I don't even know, because I couldn't do it. So, you don't really have these designated breaks and stuff, and they don't have indoor bathrooms in a lot of these facilities. So if a worker who's working on the assembly line where the animals are coming down and, they're having to do all the things. So if you got to go to the restroom, they probably would just like run outside the door, do their thing, run back in, and then you got, your hands that you're just put right back on the meats and all the foods and stuff, and if you scratch your head and the hair falls out, you know what I'm saying? Like all the things are happening, and he's witnessing this get in. And guess what? When you go to the grocery store, especially if like you're getting meat or hamburger or something, what is all the information that is on that package today was on it? Like expiration dates, and it probably tells you like what it is, right? Well, back in the day, they didn't have to. If they wanted to say that's chicken and it's not chicken, they can just put and say that it's chicken, And if it was meat they thought they could not sell to the public, they would send it to the factory cafeteria and fix it and feed it to their workers if they knew it was like stuff that was obviously past the expiration date. Like, you can usually tell if meat's not any good because it doesn't smell very good anymore, starts turning colors. But they didn't care. They would like just feed it to their workers and, be like, there, we're not losing money that way. We're not throwing anything away. So yeah, it's not good. It happened all the time. Okay. So I want to go ahead and stop because I don't want to go too far and then not get everything in. Okay. So I did want to at least intro into it. And now let's go ahead and review. That way you can get your quiz in. And the biggest thing is I would encourage you to go ahead and knock out your IDs, which you'll have time today to do as well.
Do you have is that the review thing for the quiz?
Yep.
Do you have the IDs and SQs paper? I have one.
Yes. Can I give it to you afterwards?
Yeah.
We do it. Okay. Yep, I do. I've got everything. Anything that you want a copy of, I've got it ready to rock and roll. But let's go ahead and do it. And this is, again, short, quick, fast. If you guys want to do the paper version, I've got it. If not, you can jump on SchoolNet. But it literally is not going to take you but a couple of minutes to do it and be done. There you go. All right. So again, you're welcome. You're welcome. I went through and picked out the ones that I wanted to focus on for this unit because I know there is a lot of info when it comes to imperialism, but I picked out the big stuff. And again, it's all multiple choice, a couple true false. And that's it. It's going to be great. Okay. Let's see how you do. Okay. So what 3 things stopped African Americans from voting? What?
Literacy test.
Literacy test. Yep, I heard all 3. Poll tax, literacy test, poll tax, grandfather clause. Yeah, okay. this whole entire unit for chapter 14 has been about the idea of which means taking colonies and making yourself into a larger nation by what concept? Imperialism. Yeah, I know that probably was like a horribly awful definition, but I was trying to say it without giving it away too much. Yeah, so, yep. Yeah, that wasn't good. Okay. Alrighty. Tell me, which president declared war on the Spanish? That's a good one. Who was it? I'll give you a hint. It's the same one that's about to be assassinated. Okay. I really thought that was going to pull that one home. Okay. Maybe not. It's McKinley. It's William McKinley. So that actually answers two questions on here, and they're actually back to back. So who becomes president and declares war on the Spanish? McKinley. And then, of course, who's assassinated? It's McKinley. And that, because he's assassinated during his second term, and it's TR, Theodore Roosevelt, who's his VP during his second term, he becomes president. Okay. Now, this one is actually a review question. Let's see how you do. Plessy versus Ferguson is the Supreme Court case that makes what legal? Plessy versus Ferguson says that it is now legal to do what?
Segregation.
Yes, segregation, to separate the races. Fantastic. Good. All righty, let's see. All right, so Spanish-American War, Treaty of Paris. We get what three territories?
This one where we get like Guam and Cuba and all
Guam, yes. Now,
Or
Cuba
Cuba.
becomes their own independent
that.
country.
Yeah.
We get Guam, Puerto Rico,
Philippines.
and we're going to purchase the Philippines. So those three, all right? Yep, don't forget, Cuba becomes their own independent country. All right, bell ringer question. Open door policy refers to us trading with who? China, good. All right, so we said that, yes, we do transition into becoming an imperialist nation, but what is the policy of staying out of foreign affairs? This is what we were before we changed. What's the other ism? Isolationism? Yep, okay, just say yes. That's the answer, yes. All righty. What is significant about the phrase, remember the Maine? That's our battle cry for what?
For the Spanish-American War.
Spanish-American War, right there. Yep. Yep. All right, let's see. Who did we purchase Hawaii from? Nope. Oh, geez. Alaska. Yep. That's what I meant to say.
What happened to you?
I know. I did it. It's my fault. I got everybody messed up. Oh my God. I drank a Red Bull and I'm a little jacked up this morning, so you'll have to forgive me. Okay. I'm gonna back it up. Who did we purchase Alaska from? Russia. There we go. Okay, now we're back on track. All righty. Now, the Teller Amendment is going to promise Cuba its independence after the war. I'm just kind of reviewing that fact. Let's see. Yes or no, Roosevelt is going to win a Nobel Peace Prize for arbitrating the Russo-Japanese War. Yes, that's true. Yes. Okay. All right, good. Let's see. Roosevelt's political policy was known as the big stick policy, which he said, speak softly and carry a big stick. Again, show that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. And we have the explosion of the USS Maine. Where was the USS Maine when it exploded? It was in Havana Harbor, outside of what country? Cuba? It's outside of Cuba. Yeah. Okay. We're going to do great today. We're going to do great. Yes, it's going to be great, guys. It's going to be great. I feel it. Yep. Okay. All righty. Yeah. Okay. Make sure I didn't miss anything. It's all multiple choice and true false, and a couple of true false I just read to you and gave you the answers. So I didn't want to trip you up on that one. Make sure there's nothing else that I missed. Nope, that's it. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. Okay, all right. You guys online, as soon as you knock out your quiz, you've got IDs to go ahead and get going on. Does anybody need me before I let you go? No? Okay. Happy Monday, guys. Bye.